The diplomatic vessel Whisper of Stars had been traveling through empty space for 3 months. Ambassador Kireth Soloon stood at the observation window and watched the stars pass by. He was old, even by Valanthi standards. 400 years of life had taught him many things. He had made first contact with 12 different species. He had seen wonders that most of his people could only dream about. But lately, the universe had become boring to him. The Valanthi hegemony controlled a vast area of space. 12 species lived together under their rule. They had not discovered a new civilization in 200 years. Kireth sometimes wondered if they had found everyone there was to find. Fleet Commander Thalix walked up beside him. The military officer was younger and always worried about something. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he looked at the same stars. "Ambassador, we are approaching the border of unclaimed space," Thalix said. "I recommend we turn back soon." Kireth made a sound that meant he was not interested. "We will continue, Commander. The Council wants us to map new systems for colonies. That is what we will do." Thalix did not argue. He never won arguments with the ambassador anyway. In the sensor room below, a young technician named Miravel stared at her screens with tired eyes. This was her first assignment in deep space. She had graduated at the top of her class. She had dreamed of adventure and discovery. Instead, she spent her days looking at empty space and recording data about rocks. Then something changed. A small light appeared on her screen. At first, she thought it was a mistake. She ran the scan again. The light was still there. She ran it a third time. Her hands began to shake. "Ambassador," she said into the communication device. "Ambassador, please come to the sensor room. I have found something." Kireth arrived quickly. For an old Valanthi, he could move fast when he wanted to. Thalix followed close behind, his hand already resting on his weapon. "What is it, child?" Kireth asked. Miravel pointed at her screen. "A ship, Ambassador. An unknown ship. It matches nothing in our database." Kireth leaned closer to look. His old hearts began to beat faster. "Size? 3 kilometers long, sir." Thalix made a choking sound. "That is larger than most of our space stations." Kireth smiled for the first time in months. "A new species. After 200 years, we have found a new species." He turned to Thalix. "Set a course. We will make contact." "Ambassador, I must advise caution," Thalix said. "We know nothing about them. A ship that size could carry enough weapons to destroy a fleet, or it could carry families and children and hope." Kireth replied. "We will not know until we look." "Set the course, Commander." The Whisper of Stars changed direction and moved toward the unknown vessel. As they got closer, Miravel gathered more information. The ship was not moving. It was drifting near a dying red star. Its lights were off. It looked dead. "Ambassador," Miravel said quietly, "there is something else." "Go on." "The ship is sitting in the middle of a debris field. I am reading the remains of other vessels. Many other vessels." Kireth felt something cold touch his spine. "How many?" Miravel worked her controls. Her face became pale. 47 ships, Ambassador. All destroyed. All different designs. None of them match the large vessel." Thalix stepped forward. "We need to leave. Now." "No," Kireth said, but his voice was less certain now. "We need to understand. What destroyed those ships? Was it the large vessel? Was it something else? If there is a danger in this region, the hegemony must know about it." They continued forward. The debris field grew larger on their screens. Miravel could see the broken pieces of ships floating in the darkness. Some of them were still burning. Whatever had happened here, it had happened recently. "I am detecting weapons damage on the wreckage," Miravel reported. "Kinetic impacts, plasma burns, some kind of energy weapon I do not recognize." She paused. "Ambassador, these ships were warships. Heavy armor, multiple weapon systems. They were built for battle, and they lost." Thalix whispered. The Whisper of Stars slowed down as it entered the debris field. All around them, the corpses of dead ships floated in silence. Kireth saw one vessel that had been cut in half. Another had been torn apart from the inside. A third had a hole through its center large enough to fly a shuttle through. "Hail the unknown vessel," Kireth ordered. "All frequencies. All languages in our database." The communication officer sent the message. They waited. Nothing happened. "Again," Kireth said. "Another message." More silence. Perhaps it is truly dead, Thalix suggested. A ghost ship. The winner of this battle, but too damaged to survive. Kirith was not so sure. Something felt wrong. The ship was too intact, too whole. If it had fought 47 warships, it should have damage. It should have scars, but its hull looked almost perfect. One more time, he said. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we mean no harm. The message went out. The seconds passed like hours. Then Miravel gasped. On the screen, the unknown ship was changing. Lights were turning on. Not all at once, but section by section, deck by deck. It looked like something waking up from a long sleep. Something old, something patient. Something that had been waiting. The bridge fell silent. Every Valanthi stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. The ship continued to light up. More and more sections came alive. Kirith could see gun ports opening. He could see engines beginning to glow. He could see the vessel turning. Slowly, until it faced them directly. Ambassador, Thalix said. His voice was barely a whisper. What do we do? Kirith did not answer. He could not answer. In 400 years of life, he had never felt fear like this. The ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It was covered in armor and weapons. It had scars after all. He realized. Thousands of them. They had been repaired so many times that they had become part of the ship's skin. This vessel had been fighting for a very long time. A light began to blink on the communication console. Someone was responding to their hail. Put it through, Kirith said. The screen flickered. An image appeared. Kirith had seen many alien species in his life. He had seen creatures with no eyes and creatures with 100 eyes. He had seen beings of light and beings of stone, but he had never seen anything like this. The creature on the screen had 2 eyes, both of them focused forward like a predator. It had skin that was pale and marked with old wounds. It wore a uniform that was dark and simple. Behind it, Kirith could see other creatures moving, working, preparing for something. The creature spoke. The translation system needed a moment to process the new language. Then the words came through, clear and cold. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Navy ship Thermopylae. Identify yourselves immediately and state your purpose in this system. Kirith opened his mouth to respond. But before he could speak, the creature asked another question. Its voice carried a weight that made Kirith's blood freeze. Are you the ones who have been raiding our colony ships? The ambassador looked at the debris field around them. He looked at the massive warship pointing its weapons at his small vessel. He looked at the face of the creature on the screen, and he saw something that he had only seen a few times in his long life. He saw the face of someone who had lost everything and was ready to burn the universe to make sure it never happened again. Kirith understood then that this was not just first contact. This was something far more important. This was the moment when his people would learn that they were not the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They were not even close, and the universe would never be the same again. Kirith raised his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. The gesture probably meant nothing to this alien creature, but he did it anyway. Fear had a way of making people do strange things. I am Ambassador Kirith Solun, of the Valanthi hegemony, he said carefully. We are explorers. We have never seen your species before. This is our first contact with your kind. We have not raided anyone. The creature on the screen did not move. Its eyes studied Kirith like it was reading every secret in his soul. Behind it, the other creatures had stopped their work. They were all watching, waiting. First contact, the creature repeated. Its voice was flat, tired. You expect me to believe that? It is the truth. We detected your vessel and came to investigate. We did not know what we would find. Kirith gestured toward the debris field visible through the window. We certainly did not expect to find this. The creature was silent for a long moment. Then something in its face changed. The hardness did not disappear, but it shifted. The look of someone ready to kill became the look of someone too exhausted to care. Stand by, the creature said. Do not move. Do not charge weapons. If you do anything hostile, I will destroy your ship before you can blink. The screen went dark. Thalix let out a breath he had been holding. Ambassador, we should run. Right now. While we have the chance. We would not make it, Kirith said quietly. You saw the debris field. You saw what that ship did to 47 warships. Our vessel has no weapons. We would be dead before we reached jump distance. So we wait? We hope they do not kill us? We wait, and we watch, and we learn. Kirith turned to Miravel. Keep scanning. I want to know everything about that ship. Miravel nodded and returned to her work. Her hands were still shaking, but she was a professional. She pushed the fear aside and focused on her job. The minutes passed slowly. Kirith used the time to think about what he had seen. The creature called itself human. Its ship was named Thermopylae. It belonged to something called the United Earth Navy. Earth must be their home world. Navy meant military. This was a warship. A very old, very experienced warship. The screen came back to life. The human captain was still there, but her expression had changed again. She looked less like she wanted to kill them and more like she was simply tired beyond words. I have checked your ship, she said. No weapons, minimal shields. You are telling the truth. You are not one of them. One of who? Kirith asked. The captain did not answer directly. Instead, she asked another question. How much do you know about this region of space? Very little. It is unclaimed territory. The Valanthi hegemony has never explored this far. Then you do not know about the war. Kirith felt his heart speed up again. What war? The captain leaned back in her chair. Behind her, the other humans had returned to their work. Kirith could see them moving between stations, checking systems, repairing damage. They moved like people who had done the same tasks 1,000 times before. 80 years ago, humanity started sending colony ships to new star systems, the captain said. We wanted to spread out, find new homes, give our children a future among the stars. Then the attacks began. She pressed something on her console. A new image appeared on the screen. It showed a planet burning, cities on fire, ships crashing into oceans, people running and dying. The enemy came without warning. They destroyed our colonies. They killed our people. Millions at first, then billions. We tried to talk to them. We tried to surrender. They did not respond. They just kept killing. Another image. This one showed a fleet of human ships fighting against a larger enemy force. Kirith recognized the design of the enemy vessels. They looked like the debris floating outside his window. We have been at war ever since. 80 years of fighting. 80 years of dying. We have lost count of how many humans have died. We stopped counting when the number became too large to matter. Thalix spoke carefully. And your ship? The Thermopylae? The captain's eyes moved to him. The Thermopylae is a Tidingent-class dreadnought. We were designed for one purpose. When a colony is under attack, we arrive. We hold the line while civilians escape. Then we fight until reinforcements arrive or until we die. And the debris field outside? Miravel asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. An enemy raiding fleet. They were heading toward one of our colonies. 200,000 people live there. Families, children, schools. The captain's voice became harder. I could not let them reach it. Kirith stared at her. You destroyed 47 warships. By yourself. I have destroyed more than that in my career. The captain said it like she was talking about the weather. Like it was just another fact. The Thermopylae has been in continuous combat operations for 11 years. My crew serves until they die or until they are too wounded to continue. Then new crew members arrive to replace them. The ship goes on. The bridge of the Whisper of Stars was completely silent. Every Valanthi was trying to understand what they were hearing. 11 years of constant battle. 11 years without rest. 11 years of watching friends die and being replaced by strangers who would also die. Miravel pulled up data on her screen. Ambassador, she said softly. I have finished my scan of their ship. Tell me, the Thermopylae has been repaired thousands of times. I can see layers of armor plating from different sources. Some of it does not even match. They have used whatever materials they could find. The engines have been rebuilt at least 12 times. The weapon systems are a mix of different technologies. She paused. This ship should not still be flying. By every engineering standard I know, it should have fallen apart years ago. But it has not. Kirith said. No, it has not. The captain was watching them. She could not hear their private conversation, but she seemed to understand what they were discussing. A small, sad smile appeared on her face. The Thermopylae has survived because we refuse to let her die, she said. When a system breaks, we fix it. When armor fails, we replace it. When crew members fall, others take their place. We keep fighting because the alternative is letting our families die. The smile faded. We keep fighting because we do not know how to do anything else anymore. Thalix finally found his voice. Why do you not ask for help? Surely other species would assist you. The galaxy is full of civilizations. The captain laughed. It was not a happy sound. We did not know there were other civilizations. We thought we were alone. We thought the universe was empty except for us and the enemy. She looked at them with something that might have been wonder. You are the first aliens we have ever met who did not try to kill us. The weight of those words hung in the air. Kirith understood now why the captain had been so suspicious. For 80 years, humanity had known only two things about the universe: their own people, and an enemy that wanted to destroy them. They had never imagined that there might be others. Others who came in peace. Captain Vasquez, Kirith said formally, on behalf of the Valanthi hegemony, I offer you friendship. You are not alone anymore. Whatever help we can provide, we will provide it. The captain stared at him for a long time. Something changed in her eyes. The exhaustion was still there. The pain was still there. But underneath it all, Kirith saw something he had not expected to see. Hope. You would help us? You do not even know us. I know enough. I know that you have been fighting alone for 80 years. I know that you protect your children with your lives. I know that your ship is held together by nothing but willpower and determination. Kirith placed his hand over his hearts. Kirith placed his hand over his hearts. That is enough for me. The captain was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded once. Very well, Ambassador. We will talk. But first, I must warn you of something. What? The fleet I destroyed was only a raiding party. The enemy knows we are here. They will send more ships. Many more. She looked at her console. My sensors are detecting movement at the edge of this system. They are coming. Kirith felt the cold return to his spine. How many? The captain checked her readings. When she looked back at the screen, her face had become stone again. The tired woman was gone. In her place was a warrior who had faced death so many times that it had become an old friend. Over 200 ships. A full invasion fleet. She stood up from her chair. Ambassador, I recommend you leave this system immediately. What happens next is not something you want to see. But Kirith did not move. He looked at this human, this captain, who had fought alone for so long. He looked at her ship, held together by desperate repairs and stubborn refusal to die. He looked at the debris field outside, proof of what one ship and one crew could do when they had nothing left to lose. No, he said. We will stay. We will witness. The hegemony needs to see what humanity is capable of. The captain studied him for a moment. Then she nodded with what might have been respect. Then stay behind us, Ambassador, and watch closely. You are about to see why our enemies have learned to fear the dark. She turned away from the screen and began giving orders. Around her, the crew of the Thermopylae moved with perfect efficiency. They had done this before. They would do it again, and they would keep doing it until they won, or until they were all dead. Kirith watched them prepare for battle, and he understood that he was witnessing something special, something the galaxy had never seen before. He was watching humanity go to war. The enemy fleet would arrive in 6 hours. Captain Vasquez used that time to do something unexpected. She invited the Valanthi delegation to come aboard the Thermopylae. Kirith accepted immediately. Thalix protested, but the ambassador ignored him. This was too important. The hegemony needed to understand these humans. If they were going to be allies, Kirith had to learn everything he could. A small shuttle carried the ambassador, Thalix, and Miravel across the void between ships. As they approached the Thermopylae, Miravel pressed her face against the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. The human ship was even more impressive up close. Its hull was covered in armor plates of different colors and materials. Some were dark gray, some were silver, some had strange symbols painted on them. Every plate told a story. Every scar was a battle survived. The shuttle entered a landing bay that was larger than the entire Whisper of Stars. Human soldiers stood in neat rows, weapons held at rest. They wore armor that covered their bodies completely. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing visors. When the shuttle doors opened, a woman stepped forward to greet them. She was not wearing armor. Instead, she wore simple clothes and carried a device in her hand that seemed to be for taking notes. Welcome aboard the Thermopylae, she said. I am Dr. Sarah Chen. I serve as the ship's historian and cultural liaison. Captain Vasquez has asked me to show you around before the battle begins. Kireth stepped off the shuttle and looked around. The landing bay was busy with activity. Soldiers were checking equipment. Technicians were repairing fighters. Everyone moved with purpose. No one wasted time. Thank you, Dr. Chen. I must admit I did not expect a warship to have a historian. Sarah Chen smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was warmth in it. Humans believe that memory is important. If we do not remember where we came from, we cannot understand where we are going. She gestured for them to follow her. Please, come with me. There is much to see. They walked through corridors that were wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. The walls were metal, but they were decorated with images and words. Kireth saw photographs of planets and people. He saw paintings of ships and battles. He saw names written in careful letters. These are our memories, Dr. Chen explained. Every crew member who has served on this ship has left something behind. A picture, a letter, a name. We keep them all. Thalix was looking at the walls with suspicion. Your ship is very personal. Valanthe military vessels are not decorated like this. We spend years aboard this ship. Many of us will die here. We want it to feel like home. Dr. Chen stopped in front of a large metal wall that stretched from floor to ceiling. This is the memorial wall. The wall was covered in names. Thousands of names. Tens of thousands. They were written in small letters, packed tightly together, filling every available space. Some sections had been added more recently. Others looked old and faded. What is this? Miravel asked softly. These are the names of every human who has died in this war. Every ship that has been destroyed. Every colony that has been lost. Dr. Chen touched the wall gently. We started this wall 80 years ago. When the war began, we thought it would be small. We were wrong. Kireth stared at the names. He tried to count them but gave up quickly. There were too many. Far too many. He tried to imagine the faces behind those names, the families they had left behind, the futures they would never have. How many? He asked. We stopped counting after the first billion. Dr. Chen's voice was quiet. Some things are too large to measure. You can only feel them. They continued walking. Dr. Chen showed them the weapons systems, the engine rooms, the medical bays. Everywhere they went, they saw the same things. Efficiency, determination, and a kind of desperate hope that refused to die. They passed a room where children were studying. Kireth stopped in surprise. Children? On a warship? Some of our crew have families, Dr. Chen explained. When their home colonies were destroyed, they had nowhere else to go. The ship became their home. We built schools and nurseries. The children grow up here, among the stars, learning to fight and survive. Kireth watched the children through the window. They looked like normal children. They laughed and played and argued over toys, but there was something in their eyes, something older than their years. They had seen too much already. Is it not dangerous for them? Everywhere is dangerous. At least here, on this ship, we can protect them. We can fight for them. Dr. Chen looked at the children with something like love. That is why we keep fighting, Ambassador. Not for victory, not for revenge. For them. For the children who deserve a future. They reached the bridge, just as Captain Vasquez finished giving orders to her crew. She turned to greet them, and Kireth was struck again by how tired she looked, how old her eyes were, even though her body was still young. Ambassador, I hope Dr. Chen has shown you what you wanted to see. She has shown me much. But I still have questions. Ask them. We have a few hours before the enemy arrives. Kireth gathered his thoughts. He had been thinking about this since he first saw the Thermopylae, since he first understood what kind of beings these humans were. Why? He asked. Why do you keep fighting? You have been at war for 80 years. You have lost billions of people. Your enemy is stronger than you. Why do you not surrender? Why do you not flee to another part of the galaxy and hide? Captain Vasquez was quiet for a moment. She looked at her crew, working at their stations. She looked at the screen showing the distant stars. She looked at a small photograph attached to her console. It showed a young woman smiling and holding a baby. My daughter, she said. She was 3 years old when the enemy attacked our colony. I got her to an escape ship. I stayed behind to fight. I have not seen her in 11 years. She touched the photograph gently. She is 14 now. She lives on a station near Earth. She sends me messages sometimes. She tells me about school, about her friends, about her dreams. Kirith waited. He could feel something important coming. I fight because she is behind me. Captain Vasquez continued. My daughter, the children in our school, the families on the colonies we protect, every human who is not on a warship. They cannot fight. They cannot run fast enough. They need someone to stand between them and the darkness. She looked at Kirith with eyes that burned with quiet fire. So we stand. We fight. We die if we have to, because our children are worth dying for. The bridge was silent. Even Thalix, who had been suspicious of everything, looked moved by her words. Miravel spoke up, her voice shaking slightly. But you must get tired. You must want to stop. Every day. Captain Vasquez smiled sadly. Every day I wake up and wish the war was over. Every night I fall asleep hoping tomorrow will be different. But wishing does not stop enemies. Hoping does not protect colonies. Only fighting does. Only standing firm when everything tells you to run. She stood up straighter and looked at each of the Volanthi in turn. Humanity did not choose this war. We did not want it. We were explorers and dreamers. We wanted to see the stars and meet new friends. Instead, we met monsters, and we learned that the universe does not care what you want. It only cares what you are willing to do to survive. An alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed across the bridge. A crew member called out from their station. Captain, enemy fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 212 vessels confirmed. They are forming attack formation. Captain Vasquez's expression changed instantly. The tired woman disappeared. The warrior returned. All hands, battle stations, power up all weapons, raise shields to maximum. She looked at Kirith. Ambassador, return to your ship. Stay behind us. No matter what happens, do not interfere. Kirith nodded. He wanted to say something. He wanted to thank her, to wish her luck, to tell her that she was not alone anymore. But there was no time. Dr. Chen led them quickly back to the shuttle. As they flew back to the Whisper of Stars, Kirith looked at the Thermopylae through the window. The great ship was moving, turning to face the incoming enemy. Its weapons were glowing with power. Its engines were burning bright. One ship against 200. It should have been impossible. It should have been suicide. But watching the Thermopylae advance toward the enemy fleet, Kirith did not feel despair. He felt something else entirely. He felt awe. These humans were not just fighters. They were not just survivors. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were a species that had looked into the face of extinction and refused to blink. They had been broken and beaten and pushed to the edge of destruction. And still they fought on, not because they thought they could win, but because surrender meant letting their children die, and that was something they would never accept. Kirith reached the bridge of his ship just as the battle began. He sat down in his chair and watched the screen. Beside him, Thalix and Miravel watched in silence. The Thermopylae charged into the enemy fleet like a beast made of fire and steel, and the universe held its breath. The enemy fleet spread across the darkness like a swarm of angry insects, 212 ships, each one bristling with weapons. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding the single human vessel that dared to stand against them. From the bridge of the Whisper of Stars, Kirith watched the scene unfold. His hearts were beating so fast that he could hear them in his ears. Beside him, Miravel was recording everything. Her hands trembled, but she did not stop. This was history. The galaxy needed to see it. Thalix stood with his arms crossed, his 4 eyes fixed on the screen. This is madness, he whispered. One ship cannot fight 200. They will be destroyed in minutes. But Kirith was not so sure. He had seen the debris field. He had met Captain Vasquez. He had looked into her eyes and seen something that scared him more than any army. He had seen absolute certainty. The enemy fleet sent a transmission. The Whisper of Stars intercepted it and translated the message. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, you are surrounded. Surrender the alien ship for study. Your own lives will be spared if you comply. This is your only warning. Kirith felt cold. The enemy wanted his ship. They wanted to study the Volanthi. For what purpose? He did not want to imagine. On the screen, the Thermopylae continued moving forward. It did not slow down. It did not change course. It simply advanced toward the wall of enemy ships like a predator walking toward prey. Then Captain Vasquez replied. Her voice was calm, almost bored, like she was discussing the weather instead of facing impossible odds. Enemy fleet. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Navy Dreadnought Thermopylae. The vessel behind me is under my protection. You will not touch it. You will not approach it. You will turn around and leave this system immediately. There was a pause. Then the enemy voice returned, sounding almost amused. You are one ship, human. We are 200. What can you possibly do against us? Captain Vasquez did not answer with words. Instead, she gave one order to her crew. One simple sentence that Kireth would never forget. All hands. Today we remind them why they fear us. The Thermopylae opened fire. Kireth had seen battles before. He had watched recordings of fleet engagements. He thought he understood what war looked like. He was wrong. The human ship unleashed weapons that Kireth had never imagined. Streams of metal flew from its sides at speeds that defied reason. Each one hit an enemy ship and tore through its hull like paper. Beams of concentrated energy swept across the enemy formation, cutting vessels in half. Missiles launched by the hundreds, each one finding a target and exploding in brilliant flowers of destruction. The enemy fleet tried to respond. They fired back with everything they had. Thousands of weapons targeted the single human ship. The space around the Thermopylae became a storm of light and fire. The Thermopylae did not stop. It did not slow down. It simply kept moving forward, deeper into the enemy formation, firing in every direction at once. Mirabelle was crying. Tears ran down her face as she watched the battle. Her voice was barely audible as she described what she was seeing. They are hitting it. They are hitting it with everything. But it keeps moving. How? How is it still moving? The screen showed the answer. The Thermopylae was taking damage. Its shields were failing in some sections. Its armor was being torn away. Fire burned in several compartments. Atmosphere was venting into space from a dozen holes. But the ship kept fighting. Its weapons never stopped firing. Its engines never stopped burning. Every time a system failed, another one came online to replace it. The crew was fighting not just the enemy, but their own dying ship, and they were winning. The enemy fleet began to panic. Their perfect formation broke apart as ships tried to get away from the Thermopylae. Some tried to retreat. Some tried to circle around. Some simply froze, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Captain Vasquez showed no mercy. She hunted them through the debris of their own fleet. Every ship that ran, she chased down. Every ship that fought, she destroyed. Every ship that tried to surrender, she ignored. This was not a battle. This was a lesson. And the lesson was simple. Do not threaten humanity. Do not threaten what they love. Because if you do, they will find you. They will chase you to the end of the universe. And they will make you pay. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Thermopylae drifted alone among the wreckage of 200 enemy ships. Its hull was torn and burning. Nearly half of it was open to space. Its weapons were silent, their ammunition exhausted. Its engines flickered weakly, barely keeping the ship alive. But it was still there, still fighting, still protecting the small diplomatic vessel hiding behind it. Kireth sat in his chair, unable to move. He had watched the entire battle without saying a word. Now, looking at the destroyed fleet and the dying dreadnought, he finally understood. This was what humanity was capable of. Not because they were strong, not because they had better technology, but because they simply refused to stop. They refused to accept defeat. They refused to let their enemies win, even when it cost them everything. A weak transmission came from the Thermopylae. Captain Vasquez appeared on screen. She was injured. Blood ran down the side of her face. Her uniform was torn and burned. Behind her, the bridge was filled with smoke and sparks, but she was smiling. Ambassador Kireth. Are you still there? Kireth found his voice. Yes, Captain, we are here. We saw everything. Good. She coughed, and the sound was wet and painful. The enemy fleet is destroyed. No survivors. They will not report back to their command. You have time to escape. What about you? Your ship is badly damaged. Captain Vasquez looked around her bridge. Her crew was still working, still trying to save the ship. Some of them were wounded. Some of them were dying. None of them were giving up. We will survive. We always survive. We will make repairs and continue our patrol. She looked back at the screen. But you need to leave now, Ambassador. Tell your people what you have seen. Tell them about humanity. Tell them about this war. Kirith stood up from his chair. He placed his hand over his heart in the highest sign of respect among his people. I will, Captain. I will tell them everything. And I promise you, the Valanthi hegemony will not forget what you have done today. Captain Vasquez nodded slowly. Then the battle was worth it. She reached for her console. Safe travels, Ambassador. Perhaps we will meet again in better times. The transmission ended. Kirith stood alone on his bridge, staring at the screen. The Thermopylae was still visible, a broken ship surrounded by the corpses of its enemies. It should have been dead, by every law of physics and probability. It should have been destroyed hours ago, but it was still there. Still burning. Still alive. Thalix walked up beside him. The military officer looked different now. The suspicion was gone from his eyes. In its place was something that looked almost like reverence. Ambassador, he said quietly, I have served in the hegemony military for 200 years. I have seen many warriors, many battles, many victories. And? Thalix looked at the dying human ship. I have never seen anything like them. They are not warriors. They are something else entirely. Something I do not have a word for. Miravel spoke up from her station. Her voice was hoarse from crying. I think I know the word. They both turned to look at her. They are survivors, she said. They have been pushed to the edge of extinction. They have lost everything. Their homes, their families, their dreams. They have nothing left except the people standing beside them and the enemies in front of them. She paused. And they have decided that they will not go quietly. They will fight until the last human falls. They will make their enemies pay for every life taken. They will burn the universe down before they let their children be harmed. Kirith nodded slowly. Yes, that is exactly what they are. He turned to his crew. Set a course for hegemony space. Maximum speed. I have a message to deliver to the council. He looked back at the screen one final time, and this time, they will listen. The whisper of stars turned away from the battlefield and jumped to faster-than-light travel. The Thermopylae disappeared from view, swallowed by the infinite darkness of space. But Kirith knew he would never forget what he had seen. None of them would. They had witnessed the fury of humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador Kirith Saloon stood before the Council of the Valanthi Hegemony. The great hall stretched around him, filled with representatives from all 12 member species. They sat in tiers that rose toward a domed ceiling painted with the stars of their territory. In 400 years of service, Kirith had spoken in this hall many times. He had announced treaties and trade agreements. He had reported on new discoveries and diplomatic missions. He had never been nervous. Today, his hands would not stop shaking. The High Speaker, an ancient being named Korath, looked down from the central platform. Ambassador Kirith, you have requested an emergency session of the Council. You claim to have information of critical importance. We are listening. Kirith took a breath. He had spent the entire journey home preparing his words. He had written and rewritten his report 100 times. Nothing seemed adequate. Nothing could capture what he had witnessed, but he had to try. Honored Council members, 3 weeks ago my vessel made contact with a previously unknown species at the edge of unclaimed space. They call themselves humans. They come from a planet called Earth, and they have been at war for 80 years. A murmur ran through the Council. Wars were not uncommon in the galaxy, but 80 years was a long time. Even the most stubborn species usually found peace within a few decades. Please describe this species, the High Speaker said. Kirith called up the first image. It showed Captain Vasquez standing on the bridge of her ship. Her face was hard. Her eyes burned with distant fire. Humans are relatively young as species go. They have only been traveling in space for about 200 years. They are bipedal, with 2 eyes positioned forward like predators. They are mortal, with lifespans of only about 100 years. He paused. And they are the most dangerous beings I have ever encountered. The murmur grew louder. Representatives exchanged confused glances. A young species with short lifespans did not sound dangerous at all. Explain, the High Speaker commanded. Kirith changed the image. Now the screen showed the Thermopylae, floating in space with its weapons ready. This is a human warship. It is called the Thermopylae. It is 3 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. It has been in continuous combat for 11 years. Its crew serves until they die. and then they are replaced by new crew members who continue the fight. He changed the image again. This time it showed the debris field. 47 destroyed ships floating in the darkness. The Thermopylae did this, alone, in a single battle. Now the council was silent. Every representative was staring at the screen. Some of them looked skeptical. Some of them looked worried. But all of them were paying attention. Kirith continued. But this was not the battle I came to tell you about. He played the recording. The council watched as 200 enemy ships surrounded the Thermopylae. They watched as the human captain refused to surrender. They watched as a single ship charged into the heart of an invasion fleet. For 4 hours, the recording played. No one spoke. No one moved. They watched the Thermopylae tear through the enemy formation like a beast made of fire and rage. They watched it take damage that should have destroyed it 10 times over. They watched it keep fighting anyway. When the recording ended, the Great Hall was completely silent. Kirith let the silence stretch. He wanted them to feel the weight of what they had seen. He wanted them to understand. Finally, the High Speaker spoke. His voice was barely above a whisper. One ship destroyed 200. One ship with a crew that has been fighting without rest for 11 years. He leaned forward. Ambassador, what manner of species builds weapons like this? What manner of beings fight like this? Kirith had thought about this question for weeks. He had considered many answers. In the end, he had found only one that felt true. Honored High Speaker, the humans do not fight like this because they are strong. They fight like this because they have no other choice. He called up one final image. It showed the children he had seen on the Thermopylae, studying in their classroom. For 80 years, an unknown enemy has been trying to exterminate humanity. They have destroyed colonies. They have killed billions of people. They have pushed humans to the edge of extinction. He pointed at the image of the children. The humans fight because these children are behind them. They fight because surrender means letting their families die. They fight because they have been screaming for help for 80 years and no one has answered. He lowered his hand. His voice became soft. They are not warriors, Council. They are survivors. They have been broken and beaten and pushed beyond all limits. And still they refuse to fall. They fight with everything they have, not because they think they can win, but because they cannot accept any other option. The council remained silent. Every representative was looking at the image of the human children. They were just children, small and young and full of dreams. And they lived on a warship because they had nowhere else to go. A representative from the Kothrani species raised his hand. He was a large being with a deep voice that echoed through the hall. Ambassador, you speak of these humans with great respect. But what do they want from us? What do they seek? I asked Captain Vasquez the same question. Kirith replied. I asked her what humanity wanted in exchange for friendship. And what did she say? Kirith's voice caught in his throat. He had to take a moment before he could continue. She said, we just want to go home. That is all they want. They want to stop fighting. They want to see their families again. They want to live in peace. He shook his head slowly. 80 years of war. Billions of dead. A species fighting alone against extinction. And all they want is to go home. The Great Hall was so quiet that Kirith could hear his own heart's beating. The High Speaker stood up. He was very old, even by Valanthi standards. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had witnessed events that shaped the galaxy. But looking at his face now, Kirith saw something new in his eyes. He saw fear. And he saw determination. Ambassador Kirith, what is your recommendation? Kirith did not hesitate. Immediate alliance, full military support. The Valanthi hegemony must stand with humanity against their enemy. You would have us enter a war that does not concern us? It concerns all of us, High Speaker. The enemy that attacks humanity does not negotiate. It does not accept surrender. It only destroys. Kirith swept his arm across the council. If humanity falls, what stops this enemy from coming for us next? And if they do come, will we be able to stop them? Will we be willing to fight like the humans do? Will we sacrifice everything to protect our children? He let the questions hang in the air. Humanity has shown us what survival truly means. They have shown us the price of freedom. We can either stand with them and help end this war, or we can stand alone and pray we never have to face the same choice. The High Speaker looked around the council. Every representative was watching him, waiting for his response. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he raised his hand in the traditional gesture of agreement. The hegemony will stand with humanity. We will provide ships, supplies, and soldiers. We will help them win their war. His voice hardened, and we will show the galaxy that no species needs to fight alone. One by one, the other representatives raised their hands. First the Kothrani, then the Velith, then the Morani and the Sylphan and all the others. Every species in the hegemony voted yes. For the first time in 200 years, the council had made a unanimous decision. 6 months later, the Thermopylae limped into Valanthi space. The ship was barely holding together. Its hull was more patches than original armor. Its engines were running on emergency power. Its crew was exhausted beyond all limits, but they had made it. They had survived. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge and watched through the main screen as 500 hegemony vessels formed an honor guard around her ship, warships from 12 different species, all flying in formation, all showing respect to the battered human dreadnought. A transmission came through. Ambassador Kireth's face appeared on the screen. Captain Vasquez, welcome to hegemony space. You are among friends now. Vasquez looked at the fleet surrounding her ship. She looked at the crews of a dozen alien species who had come to stand with humanity. She looked at the vast space station ahead, where diplomats were waiting to formalize the alliance. For the first time in 11 years, she felt tears forming in her eyes. Thank you, Ambassador. You don't know how long we've been waiting to hear those words. What happens now, Captain? Vasquez thought about her daughter. 14 years old now. Growing up on a station near Earth, waiting for a mother who might never come home. Now we end this war. Now we take the fight to the enemy instead of waiting for them to come to us. She smiled through her tears. Now we show them what happens when humanity has allies. The Thermopylae sailed slowly toward the space station, surrounded by ships from across the galaxy. On every vessel, crew members watched the human dreadnought pass. They saw its scars. They saw its damage. They saw the impossible will that kept it flying, and they understood. The galaxy had always believed that silence was the absence of sound. They had thought that quiet meant peace, that stillness meant safety. But watching the humans, they learned there was another kind of silence. It was the silence of those who had screamed until their throats gave out. The silence of those who had begged for help that never came. The silence of those who had learned that the universe did not care about their suffering, and then had decided to make the universe care anyway. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be silent in the same way again, because now, when they looked at the stars, they would remember. They would remember one ship against 200. They would remember a captain who refused to surrender. They would remember children studying on a warship because they had no home, and they would remember the answer that changed everything. We just want to go home. The war would last another 5 years. Humanity and the hegemony would fight together. They would suffer together. They would win together. But that is a story for another time. For now, it is enough to know that humans were no longer alone. They had found friends among the stars, and those friends had learned the most important lesson of all. Never threaten what humans love, because they will burn the universe down to protect it, and they will never, ever stop.